Then recovery girl said, I'm not talking about just you training him, you big idiot, I'm talking about your old trainer Gran Torino, he's the one I'm talking about, you can train him too and you should really consider giving him that quirk of yours. And then I said I already permanently copied his quirk but I made it better and I already have his powers without all the drawbacks. And then I said there's other powers inside that quirk of his and I can access all of them unrestricted and it also won't damage my body because my body is invincible. So long as I keep my invincibility on, nothing can hurt me, not even the powers of One for All. And then All Might said let's go outside so you can use 100% of One for All right now. And then we both went outside. I said One for All 100% and then my powers went off the charts. And then All Might said, my god kid, you're doing it. And then I said this is nothing, I can push it further than this. And then All Might looked surprised and asked me how far can you push it. And then I said I am not entirely sure but this power feels infinite. And then I said One for All 1,000,000%. And then my powers exploded forth in a brilliant green light and I said wow, this is incredible, this is the most powerful quirk I have ever seen, but it feels like it has a missing piece and it's All for One. A quirk called All for One. And then right after that I saw that All for One gave this power One for All to his brother. And then I saw all of the previous users of One for All and they all said my name Izuku Midoriya. You are the strongest and you will be the one that finally destroys All for One. And then All Might asked me, kid, are you okay? And then I said I'm fine, All Might. And then he said good, because I thought I lost you there for a minute, try using the powers you're showing me. And then he said run kid, show me how fast you are. Then I said I'm the fastest man alive and I smiled big and I ran across the water to America and it barely took me 60 seconds and I came back to UA with a cheeseburger combo meal and I gave some to All Might. And then All Might said that's a burger place I found only in America. And then I said there's plenty here for both of us, I don't mind sharing. And then All Might said yes kid, now you definitely need a trainer for my powers and me and my old teacher can help you out. And then I said I already know how train really good, All Might, because even without your quirk I still had super speed, but I noticed your quirk can enhance everything, even eyesight and even intelligence and the entire human body. It also enhanced my hearing earlier and you have the most amazing quirk, All Might, and it's no wonder you're so strong and powerful. And then All Might said thank you kid, and now well, since you healed me and all that, I want to fight you because I need to know if I can beat or if I'm even on your level, because I'm just very curious about how powerful you actually are. And then me and All Might clashed in a fight for a bit, but it was very clear that All Might was struggling a lot to even hit me. And then I said you're powerful, All Might, but you're just not fast enough, and then barely struck All Might with a light jab, but the velocity of my fast strike was enough to bust his nose and make it bleed along with his lip and he was already knocked out before he hit the ground. And I said damn, that was one punch. And then I said I guess that's all it takes for me to win against anyone. And then the next day I went back to Aldera Junior High School and now it's almost time for me and Katsuki Bakugo to go to UA High School, only this time when after the teacher said these are career aptitude tests to determine what types of jobs you want to be in after you all graduate from this school. But who am I kidding, I know you all want to become heroes. And he threw all those papers in air and then Katsuki Bakugo smirked and said don't lump me in with all these losers, teach these kids will be lucky if they are all sidekicks of some busted D-listers. And then they all said boo. And then one of the students said you think you're better than us, Bakugo? And then she said alright, I'll take you all on, I aced all the mock exams, I put in the work, and me and Deku are so far out of all your leagues it's not even funny. And I just sit there smiling warmly and stoic as usual. And then they all got quiet when I raised my hand and I became the law in Aldera Junior High School that no one there bullied quirkless kids either, I made sure of it. And when I raised my hand all the bullies shuddered in fear and respect. And then I said no using quirks without a license or in this school, and the rest of you shut up when the teacher is talking, it's impolite and I'm sure all of you know your manners, so be silent for now. And then they all shut up entirely. And then my teacher said Izuku Midoriya, impressive as usual, great marks all across the board and I must say you're our best student.